Hello Year 9 and welcome back to the third and final English Literature Poetry lesson with me, Mr. Smith, and this time around we are looking at the poem Storm on the Island by Seamus Heaney. Today's learning question is, how can I use lexical analysis to begin to understand a poem? And today we will be doing the usual opening activities that we always do to understand a poem, but we are looking on a slightly more technical level, a slightly deeper level, at the language used in the poem, and that's where lexical analysis comes in. The word lexical means relating to the words or vocabulary of a language, and it's a specialized technical term used in the study of languages relating specifically to words. So if, for example, you were to go on to study English language at A-level with us in sixth form, then you would find that part of what you did would be analysing the way people speak and the way that language is formed over time. It's a fascinating subject, and you would be using the term lexical, quite often there. It's a valuable bit of knowledge to have anyway. If it comes up again, you'll recognise it, you'll know what it means. It comes from the Greek lexis, which means word, lexikos, of words. Into English, that becomes lexical. So there you have it. Semantic field is the second thing I'd like to remind you of this time, because we've already covered semantic fields in last lesson looking at bayonet charge. A group or field of words sharing an area of meaning, which is what semantic means, and relate to each other. So with our 5 little sheep here, knife, lethal, fierce, grief, and tears, those words all relate to the idea of death or killing. So that would be one semantic field. But of course, these words could also fit into other semantic fields. Fierce, grief, tears, they could all fit into a semantic field of grief or related to that idea. You can't have a field of 2. However, you need 3 or more words that match up. You might find these called lexical fields. They are the same thing. Final piece of technical vocabulary to understand today is plosive. It comes from the word explosive, and it's a consonant sound made by stopping the air flowing out of the mouth and then suddenly releasing it. So if you're not sure what I mean by that, you can practice it with me now. These stop sounds can be voiceless, like the sounds p, t, and k, and you can actually make those sounds without breathing any air past your lips. You can simply go t, and that's why they're called voiceless. The other 3 here are voiced, which means you have to breathe out and pass air over your lips to make the noise, but you can make them like this: ba, da, ga. So you can practice that and get the hang of what plosives are and make everybody in your house think that you've gone mad. And as you might well have guessed, these words have a certain explosive quality to them. So a word beginning with ba, like bang, for example, creates that powerful, immediate ba sound that you might associate with an explosion. So they can be used to denote power. I want you to keep an eye out for them throughout these lessons, because this poem is chock full of them. First activity, and a familiar one for us then, is the word association with the title. So Storm on the Island is not a particularly difficult title in terms of the words, and all I want you to do is to take 2 minutes to think about what images and ideas those words put into your head. When you think about storms, you think about islands. There's a couple of images there on the page as well. So take your 2 minutes, pause now, make your mind map, and when you come back, we'll have a look at what I came up with and see whether we're matching up. Okay, so when I think about this title, there are 4 kind of key ideas that come to my mind, and the first one is that of a storm, powerful weather, high winds, and I think about the landscape being battered by this powerful weather. And then I think about the damage that can cause. So the damage to human constructions, houses destroyed, lives disrupted, as well as the damage to the natural world. People within the storm, some people might enjoy it, might find it beautiful, other people might be threatened by it. It's a very personal experience, it can be quite an emotional experience, and of course storms can also metaphorically relate to our feelings. Anger or grief or sadness can be related to bad weather. And last of all, the idea of the island. Now, for me, that comes with a sense of isolation, a sense of being apart from other things. And if you look very carefully and closely on that picture, you'll see there is a small house right in the middle of that island. And it's easy to imagine being out there and isolated with bad weather rolling in. And I wonder whether that might be something that the poets decided to talk about and to examine in their poem. Activity 2 then is all about semantic fields, which you should remember from last lesson, but this time it's looking a little bit different. Rather than a small selection of words, I've actually collapsed this poem down and alphabetized the words. I've got rid of any words like is and it and the that don't really have any significance. And what you're going to do with these words now, this whole big group here, is you're going to sort them into their semantic fields. I'm giving you 5 headings, so you don't have to think about what fields on this occasion. And I would like you to sort them into safety, fear, violence, sounds, and nature. These words, of course, do not need to go into only one. You can have the same word in multiple or even all of these fields. And a word belongs in one of those fields if you can associate ideas or feelings or images from that word with this idea. Give yourself about 5 minutes or a little bit longer if you need it. Do it as a graph, table, list, doesn't matter. And when we come back after the break, I'll see what I managed to come up with and we can compare and talk about what that might mean. Okay, welcome back. And if you have a look across my table here, I went for the boring option of a table. I've got quite a lot of words in each of these. So I was able to find a lot of words I associated with safety and as many in fear and in violence as well. And you'll notice that some of these words kind of come together several times. The blast as in an explosion, that's something to be afraid of, and it's a very loud noise as well. So you can take a moment and pause the video if you want to check off your answers against mine. The next thing to do is to start thinking about plosives, our explosive friends, and what sort of words do we find creating that explosive b or g or d sound. Give yourself 2 minutes to pick those out. Just label them, highlight them, and appreciate how many we can actually find in this one poem. Think about whether that changes your expectations of what this poem might be about or the kind of emotions or tone we might get from it. Give yourself that 2 minutes now. And so here we are finally with the plenary today, and after all of that thought about the language, the lexical analysis that you've just done, you should be in a good position to answer these final questions. What will this poem be about? What big ideas and themes might the poet explore? Take everything that you've thought about today, all of your ideas and your learning so far, and just 2, 3, 4 sentences to make your predictions to refer back to in the future. And when that's done, you've completed the first lesson, and thank you very much.